Hello, 1301. This is the lesson on Gloria Anzaldua. I think you can tell the effects of the quarantine on my hair and my beard and the gray in my beard. I think Anzaldua might be the most complicated of our three essays, so I think these videos might help more. I'll talk more about this later, but I think a good paper might be to compare Gloria Anzaldua to Richard Rodriguez. Richard Rodriguez is writing in the 80s. He says, be more like the Americans. Gloria Anzaldua, lose your accent, do whatever you have to do to get a job, to blend in, to assimilate. And Gloria Anzaldua says, no, to heck with the Americans. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of your culture, your religion, your saints, whatever. I have notes there, but even before I start Gloria Anzaldua, there's a little section where she mentions La Llorona. I'm from Virginia. And I think that's the key to understanding entering into the Serpent. And this is the lecture on entering into the Serpent. I'm from Virginia. I've never heard of La Llorona before I came here. And the first 5 times I asked my face-to-face students, they said she was a poor girl. She married a rich man. She was in love with him. They had 2 babies. Then the rich man cheated on her and left her. And she was so distraught because her husband left her that she drowned her babies. And I'm kind of objective. I've never heard the story. I'm not from here. So I'm thinking, okay, the moral is don't cheat on your wife. But then it turns out over the years, men being in charge of the government and the language, the dictionary, whatever, they made La Llorona into a demon woman who would steal your baby. Like, don't go outside at night because La Llorona will take your babies. And originally it seemed like the moral was don't cheat on your wife. So I think that's the best way to understand entering into the Serpent. How men have controlled, manipulated women, the myth of women, through the years. And I have the document here in front of me. She starts with some poetry, some references to the serpent. Maybe the serpent is the male, you know what I'm saying? But she says, and I don't speak Spanish, first page, a snake will crawl into your nalgas, make you pregnant. They seek warmth in the cold. Dicen que las colubras like to suck chichis, can draw milk out of you. In my face-to-face classes, I would pretend originally I didn't know what that meant. I don't speak Spanish, but I know what that means from teaching Anzaldua. But when I was in school, I took French. She mentions that in the article, not me, but you speak French in France and on a couple islands. Whoever was my advisor should have told me to speak Spanish. I think that would have helped with my job. But anyway, there's a lot of snake metaphors, snake legends, snake myths. Somewhere in the mix, the snake is the male penis, and women have to watch out all the time. Women can't walk outside. Sometimes I'll ask my classes in Odessa, do you feel safe as a woman getting gas at midnight in Odessa? And usually they say no. If you're feeling it, you could maybe write a paper like that. But women are always in danger. The object, the snake, is always after them. So that's certainly one of the early messages. I have to scroll a little bit. Cota La Pew, I hope I pronounced that right. On page 73, she's a fertility and earth goddess. It describes her at the bottom of 73. But back in the day, 1500, 1600, she's a strong, a superhero kind of. And then over the years, she talks about the male-dominated Azteca Mexica culture drove the powerful female deities underground. So I think she's suggesting the original Cota La Pew was like Wonder Woman, a superhero, But men are in charge of the government, men are in charge of the language. Year after year, they rewrite her as to some kind of like evil demon woman. So it's really about how men have controlled women over the years. Sometimes I'll ask my classes, is the dictionary coded for men? Is there 100 words in the dictionary for naughty girl, but like 6 words in the dictionary for naughty boy, if you smell what the rice cooking? So she talks about how men have dominated the language. Big words, and it's kind of like a crazy quilt the way she writes, but I think that's the point. Scrolling a little more, the Virgin of Guadalupe. It's on page 75. Talks about Roman Catholic Church. Bottom of 75. Today, the Virgin of Guadalupe is the single most potent religious, political, and cultural image of the Chicana Mexicano. And then on page 76, Guadalupe unites people of different races, religions, languages, Chicano Protestants. It goes on. She mediates between the Spanish and Indian cultures, between the Chicanos and the white world. She mediates between the human and the divine, between the reality and the reality of the spirit entities. She is the symbol of ethnic identity and of the tolerance for ambiguity that Chicano Mexicanos, people of mixed race, people of Indian blood, people who cross cultures possess. And it talks like she's the point of intersection between rich people, poor people, brown people, white people. And this section is like celebrates the Virgin of Guadalupe. Sometimes in church, sometimes in class, we would talk about church. Sometimes people in a face-to-face class talk about their religion. Sometimes they don't. But sometimes that breaks down into a discussion of Mexico versus the United States. Maybe the United States is patriarchal, capitalistic, make money, stomp the other person. Whereas maybe Mexico is maternal. It's about family and church and love. So sometimes that's what the discussion breaks down to. Somewhere in there is where she mentions La Llorona, and I think that's ultimately the key to how I would explain this essay. Some of the middle sections talk about the Aztecs and the Spanish. I don't necessarily know my Mexican history as well as you do, but rape, pillage, taxation, Spanish come and take all the gold, rape the women, dominate their culture. So, again, men coming from somewhere else. Scrolling on a bit to the presences. A lot of times in this class, I go over her actual text because it's fairly complicated. It swirls around. There's Spanish sections. I don't think she wants it to be like mainstream 6 sentences in a paragraph, perfect grammar. She jumps around a lot, stream of consciousness, the way real people talk. But the presences is sort of about female intuition, spirituality. Sometimes in class we talk about ghosts. I'll tell a ghost story. Someone in the class will tell a ghost story. And I wonder aloud if Americans are about making money and capitalism and they believe in ghosts, maybe they're less religious than like Mexican culture and what that means. Maybe we talk about like mother's intuition. Like if you've been naughty, your mother would say, I knew something was wrong. I knew you were being naughty. And that's kind of spooky or spiritual or whatever you want to call it. And it's not just about making money. So that's the difference between Mexico and America. And then the final section is called La Facultad. I would ask for a translation of that. I think that means faculty. But I explained that, at my old school, I taught James Baldwin, African-American writer. And he was writing in the 50s, but he would encourage an African-American, if he sat at a table with white people, to kind of push their buttons, mess with them, see what they got. And I think Anzaldua, her philosophy is kind of the same sentiment. She just sort of knows when someone's being racist. She knows when someone's being sexist. It's like a sixth sense. And I think she wants her people to kind of push the buttons when they're sitting at a table full of white people, to see what they have. And there's different translations of La Facultad, but that's how I would explain it in my face-to-face. Okay, that's entering into the serpent.